Hello, my name is Chris Ballard and I am the Kids Camp Director at the BGSU Rec Center. I am also the Health and Safety Instructor for many of our CPR and Lifeguard certification classes. I want to say two things before we get started. One, as we go through this CPR demonstration, I want everyone to make sure that they're not practicing on anyone. This is not to be used on anyone who doesn't need it as an emergency life-saving technique. So if you have siblings or your parents or your pets that you think, oh, I'll try this on them, please don't, because it is painful or dangerous if you do it to people who do not need it. I will also say that I've been teaching CPR and lifeguarding courses for about 12 years now with American Red Cross. However, this does not certify anyone or give you the full scope of what we would go through in a traditional class. So we'll get started. We'll go ahead and talk about CPR. So the first thing you want to do if you come across someone who you feel needs help is survey the scene. So I'm going to look around, I'm going to use all 5 senses and see, is there something that caused this to happen? Could it be a gas leak or something like that that maybe is contributing to the emergency? If I deem that the scene is safe, I can then approach and I want to tap and shout, hello, hello, are you okay, hello? If there's no response, the first thing you want to do is call 911. In any scenario where there is an unconscious person or you're not sure if they are conscious because the scene is unsafe, call 911. That is the most important part of any emergency, calling 911. So once 911 has been called, either by me, if I am by myself, or with someone who's with me, I'm going to look, listen, and feel for 10 seconds for breathing. So I'm going to put my ear right by their mouth, and I'm going to look down their chest to see if I can hear or see the breaths. So their airway, and I'm going to look right here, see if it's coming up, see if I feel anything or hear anything. And after 10 seconds, if I don't think that they're breathing, I'm going to go into CPR. So CPR consists of 30 compressions onto their chest and 2 rescue breaths. So with the compressions, I'm going to take my palm right here and I'm going to put it right there in the center of their chest. Make sure you don't go too low. You kind of want it right on the nipple line right here. I'm going to then take my other hand and interlock my fingers like this. When I do it, I don't want my fingers on the person like this. I want all the pressure right here in the middle. So I'm going to get up straight. I'm going to lock my elbows. You don't want to be doing like this. You want your elbows completely locked. And you're going to go 30 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So then for the rescue breaths, you may see these for lifeguards or professional rescuers. With this, they're just covering it. That way they can breathe in this way, but there's nothing can come up this way. For typical use or typical things where you're not a professional, you're going to be just using nothing at all. I'm going to use this just so I'm not touching the mannequin we use. So the first thing you want to do here is pinch the nose. That way when you breathe in, nothing's coming through the nose, it all goes down. You're going to open the airway like this, tilting the head back, and then breathe in. 1, 2. After those 2 breaths, you're right back into 30 compressions. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And you're going to do this for a few minutes. Ideally, EMS will come and take over. But you're going to do this until a few things happen. So the hope is that they show obvious signs of life, and at that point you can discontinue this. Another would be if the scene is unsafe. If there is something going on and it becomes unsafe, you need to leave. If you can take the victim or help them, go for it. But if not, you leave the scene. If EMS arrives, they can take over. And then also if you become too tired. At a certain point, if you do this long enough, especially on a real person, you'll be exhausted to where you can't continue. So those are kind of the reasons why you might stop CPR, but once you start, you really don't stop until one of those things happen. I want to show a couple differences on if we were doing this on an infant. There's three main differences. So the first is, instead of our hand, we're going to use 2 fingers. And we're going to do compressions just like this. Same place in the middle of their chest. The second is, when we are breathing in, we're not going to pinch their nose. We're going to put our mouth completely over it. So your mouth is going to go over their nose and their mouth. And then the third and final difference that's important is, you are not going to do full breaths. So with a child or an adult, you're going to do complete breaths. With an infant, you're going to essentially fill your cheeks up with air and do puffs of air. So a little bit less. Their lungs are smaller. You don't want to try to overinflate them. So that's generally CPR. Again, the most important thing you want to remember with CPR is, if they are unconscious, call 911. CPR has a low percentage of helping without additional help, medications or AEDs. So you could be doing this for a long time and really not helping them without 911 being called. Cool. The second thing I want to talk about is choking. So it's going to be a little hard because I don't have someone to demonstrate on. But what I'll do is I'll treat this as if this was a child. So with a child, I'm going to get on their level. With an adult, I can stand up and kind of be on their level. Whenever I do, I want to have good foot placement. So if they were to go unconscious, I have a good stance and I can help them. For a child, the first thing you're going to do, gain consent. If it's your child, obviously you don't need that, but if it's someone else's child, gain consent from the parent or guardian who's around. If there is no parent or guardian, you can ask the child, and if they say yes, go ahead and help them. So I'm going to put my arm across their chest onto their shoulder and lean them forward. This is going to kind of help gravity pull that out. So I'm going to do my palm right here. I'm going to do 5 back blows, right kind of in between the shoulder blades. After those, I'm going to come right here. You can find their belly button, and just a little bit above it, that's where you're going to put your hand. So one's here, the other one's going to go over it, and you're going to go in and up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 2 things that can happen. The first, hopefully, the object comes out and they're no longer choking. The second is they go unconscious. As soon as they go unconscious, you want to call 911 right away. Ideally, if you're with other people, if this starts happening, one person can call 911 and you can help them. But if my child's choking, your child's choking, you're not going to, hold on, let me call 911. You're going to start helping them first. This is one of those care first scenarios. But as soon as they go unconscious, you want to stop, call 911, and then continue. Usually with a cell phone, you call, put it on speaker, and continue to help them. So as soon as they go unconscious, you can lay them flat down like this, and we're going to go into 30 compressions. You don't need to check anything because you know what's happening. So 30 compressions. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. But before you do any breaths in, you're going to check their mouth. So ideally, by doing those compressions while they have their object in their throat, you're pushing it up, and you don't want to blow it back down. So you're going to check. Ideally, you see the object, and if you do see, you're going to sweep it out with your finger. I want to show you on an infant because it's a little different. So again, if this starts happening, the first thing you want to do is gain consent. So once I have consent, I'm going to take the child and I'm going to get a grip right on their jawline. So not on their mouth or their throat. So kind of right here. And that's just to stabilize their head. Because if I'm doing this, their head is really jiggly, but if I have them, their head's not going to move. So I'm going to start with my back blows. 2, 3, 4, 5. Put my hand on the back of their head and rotate them. 2 fingers again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sitting because this is generally what you want. You want that object to be pulled out by gravity. You can also lean down like this, but you want to have some support on your legs or something else to really not be doing this, but have that stabilization. So I'm going to continue doing this. Until one of two things happens, either the object comes out or they go unconscious. Again, if they go unconscious, the first thing I'm going to do is, well, I guess put the infant down and then call 911. 911 has been called, then I'm going to do my 30 compressions. I'm going to check their airway. If I see something, I will scoop it out. With an infant, you can use your pinky finger. And then I'm going to do my breaths in. So let's say you sweep something out, or if you don't sweep something out, but the air doesn't go in. So I do my 2 breaths. It seems like it's still blocked. I'm then going to continue the 30 compressions, checking before, sweeping if needed, and then do the breaths. So you always want to check before you breathe until you feel like the object has been cleared. So that is generally choking. Again, I want to say this is not totally what we cover in the class. There's much more and much more depth to what we would do. This is just general, basic life-saving stuff. So if you are in an emergency, it's better to know something than nothing. There is a link below with the Red Cross Blended Learning course. So the course itself has an online portion and an in-person portion. The online portion, which is what the link is for, is free. You can go through it, you can do scenarios and have a better idea of what to do. And if you want to complete that certification and have the full certification, you can do the in-class portion with us at the Rec Center or anywhere else that has a blended learning course. If anyone has any questions on anything we went over or any ideas for what we could do in the future to help provide new and fun things for y'all, please email us at kidscamp@bgsu.edu. Other than that, hope you enjoyed this and learned something, and we'll see you next Thursday.